Well, hey there, greetings, salutations, all of that. My name is Jules, and today I'm building a fairy house in The Sims 4. So my first thought for this build was that I was going to incorporate the house into a tree, and I used one of the trees that was already on the lot. And by the way, this is the empty lot in Realm of Magic. Just kind of felt like an appropriate place for a fairy house. Now, I thought this would work out fine, as I've previously built a tree house with a tree right in the middle, but this didn't work so well. I found after I built the house that the sim couldn't really access anything on the tree side of the house, and I also couldn't really build around it. So I end up later on, and you'll see this, switching to a tree that makes a little more sense for this build, the tree that already has a fairy door of its own, and I also end up moving it behind the house so it's kind of its own thing rather than incorporated into the house. I also knew that I wanted to use rounded walls for this house, mostly because I wanted to have kind of like a mushroom vibe, but let me tell you, I've never really built with rounded walls before, and I definitely regretted that decision. I don't know if the round walls were glitching out for me or if the problems I was having are common, but all I can say is it was very annoying. All of the objects I tried to place on the wall would place way too high up. The game wasn't recognizing any area with rounded walls as a room, and it was giving me a lot of issues with placing a foundation. I am glad that I decided on the rounded walls in regards to the roof, however. I love this rounded look. This isn't the roof swatch that I'm going to keep, but it's starting to get there with the vibes I was looking for. And of course, we are sizing up flowers and the mushroom stools, pretending they're real mushrooms that a fairy could actually live in. Just trying to emphasize that whoever lives here is very tiny. I imagine that the fairy who lives in this house is a woodland fairy, so I knew that I wanted to bring a lot of nature into the build. If you notice on the exterior walls, I used a wallpaper from the Spooky Stuff pack, which I'm pretty sure I've never used before, but it just kind of reminded me of like a bark-like texture, and again, bringing nature in, that made perfect sense to me. Now, I couldn't find a swatch for stair railings that I thought really looked right with this particular build, and normally I would have so much OCD about putting a railing on the stairs, but, and hear me out here, a fairy lives here. She can fly. Technically, she doesn't even need stairs, but in order to actually play in The Sims, we needed to add some. So I just decided to leave the railing off. And let me tell you, I'm really frustrated sometimes that we don't always get matching stair railing and like porch railing swatches, because I find the perfect fencing for upstairs and then there's no stair railing to match. I changed the floor plan of this build so many times, mostly because nothing really seemed to work with the rounded walls. Like the stairs, for example, I had to keep moving them because even though they should have fit, they didn't. And another thing that I found a little bit annoying was the fact that even if I placed walls where the wall looked flat, the intersecting walls would still go through the rounded walls, which is just ridiculous. So you see there, I had like fake grass in the rooms. I had some flowers poking through the wall, some of the flowers that I had sized up. And that kind of gave me this idea to just incorporate nature, like bring the outside in, because I thought that made sense for a fairy anyway. But I ended up not really caring for how that looked. Just reminded me a little too much of a daycare. So I just moved the flowers out and started over. Decided to put a little TV sitting area on one side when you enter and a little reading nook on the other side. Right now, what I'm doing is placing a bunch of multicolored rugs on the floor. I knew 100% that aside from the nature vibe, I wanted this house to be very, very eclectic. I wanted it to kind of look like she collected scraps of fabrics and maybe even like some Barbie furniture that she turned into like functioning things like the refrigerator and stuff like that. And I just knew that I wanted this house to have a very boho vibe in that sense. Also kind of playing with textures, different textures of rugs. That's something that I personally really like about the boho style. And I feel like a lot of times, well, probably about half the time, when you see something that's labeled as boho, it is like very neutral and muted. But then sometimes there's a lot of different colors mixed in. And I am a colorful girl. I really like bright things. I like pastel things. So that is how I had to do it. So I definitely put way too much thought into this build. For example, that little tea set, I know for sure that our fairy stole that from a little girl's dollhouse. So going back to the whole collecting things, that's kind of where I came up with this whole mismatched upper cabinets thing. I figured she just collected some scraps of wood or some maybe some little dollhouse cabinets, and she just kind of slapped them up on the wall. This bedroom right here, I'm imagining to be a teenager's bedroom. I really wanted to use that wallpaper from the Maximalist kit, but I am going to go back to that room and change the color scheme because that blue and purple really wasn't doing it for me. It was a little too moody. I knew 100% without thinking which bed I wanted to use in the kids' room. And every time I use that bed, I use this wall color. So that one honestly was a little bit easier for me. Although when I tested this room, nothing worked. So I do end up rearranging all of the furniture and taking some things out. Now, the greens and yellows and like peachy colors made a lot more sense to me for the teens room. Kind of fits with the rest of the house a little better. And in my opinion, just gives off the nature vibe a lot better. One of the most important things in a fairy build, in my opinion, is the proper lighting. Something ethereal, moody. And I honestly couldn't think of anything better than that over the bed canopy. So at this point, we've moved upstairs, and I'm going to be working on the baby/toddler's room and also the master bedroom. And then on either side of this desk are two bathrooms, one for the master bath and the other one that's more of like a communal family bath. This vibe right here, now definitely she found the door somewhere, a little tiny door, but most of the stuff here in my mind was absolutely Barbie stuff. The chair, the light, the computer, all things that she took from a Barbie dream house. And of course, any fairy needs a clawfoot tub. You definitely need to be a little bit creative with placement when you're working with rounded walls. And of course, we had to have a divider because there was just no way that I could have a free floating tub pretty much right next to the toilet just randomly. Now, I placed shelves in this bathroom with towels and other things on them probably about 5 times. And every time I saved the game and came back into the game, these would disappear. I have no idea why that was happening. As far as I know, it's the only thing that was disappearing, but probably looks a little bit different in my final build because of that. So moving across the hall to the family bathroom, definitely wanted to put a shower bath combo in this room. And I actually really love this one from Parenthood, I believe it is. But of course, again, I wanted to pull that nature vibe in. So that's why I decided to go with the flower swatch. And I did use the same tiles in both of the bathrooms, but I used a different wall color. Tried to pull some gray out for the master bath and some of the yellow out for the family bathroom. This is the walk-in closet that connects the master bedroom to the bathroom. I don't really play with closets a lot. I just thought it would be fun to add it in here. I'm not really sure why. And clearly I had to go with the pink swatch because, of course, this was Barbie's wardrobe. I mean, to be completely honest, I kind of feel like the clothing was probably Barbie's as well. I'm also pretty sure that I just keep tripping over my own tongue. Apparently I forgot how to talk today. And what walk-in closet would be complete without a full-length mirror? And of course, she needs a place to sit, so I decided to add in the little boho footstool. And now we're working on the master bedroom. I really like feature walls, and somehow this wallpaper felt right for this fairy. I wanted to keep neutral tones. To be honest with you, I kind of hate this bed from Realm of Magic. I do use it from time to time, but it's a little excessive in my opinion. But for her, perfect. And we also don't have a lot of options for 4-poster canopy beds, so this seemed like the best one. And fairies probably don't collect a lot of tables, but they might collect some of Barbie's or random dollhouse dolls luggage. And I went back to that whole overlapping rugs look. I love that look. If I didn't have so many pets, I'd probably do it in my own house. And now I'm working on the baby's room. I made space for a toddler and a newborn in this one. I used the fluffy rugs from the industrial kit and Snowy Escape. I figured it would be a comfortable place for the babies to crawl or lay, but hopefully no one throws up on it because that would be pretty gross to clean. I used the toddler bed and bassinet from the werewolf pack, partially because they're just my favorites, and also because, like I said before, our fairy, in my mind, is a collector, and she's going to make whatever she can with what she finds if she can't find it already ready to use. I thought the unicorn and the dragon were the best plushes for fairy kids to have, and of course we needed a rocking chair and some random toys placed around the room. I decided to use the island living windows for this build because I felt like it needed to be open air. And I also figured that paned glass would be pretty difficult for a fairy to source. And now I'm taking out all of the saucer lights that I placed just so I could see and replacing them with lights that I felt were more appropriate for a fairy's house. And as a finishing touch and to bring nature inside, like I keep talking about, just adding some house plants, perfect for this fairy and also really important for that boho look, in my opinion. And side note, since absolutely no one asked, just thought I'd mention that the tea-can planter wall hanging thing from the Blooming Rooms kit is my absolute favorite object in all of The Sims 4. How about you, friends? Do you have a favorite random object in the game? I definitely wanted there to be a plant in every room of this house, although in the kids' bedroom, I do end up having to take the plant out just so it was functional. And now I'm just adding walls so I can put some doors on the mushrooms to make them look like they're also fairy houses, which are ridiculously smaller than the main house, I realize. But hey, maybe most of their house is underground. I decided to use some wisteria and ivy and other wall climbing plants, I think, if there are any, to kind of cover up the actual walls I had to put into the mushroom. I hope my goal was to make it look like the door was actually in the mushroom itself. And this was about as close as I could get. Although I'm sure there are plenty of builders who could do a much better job than I did. You might even be one of them. So that, friends, is our fairy house story. And as always, I hope you have a lovely day. Bye!